I noticed on a date, the best thing to do as a man is speak almost nothing. Just ask
Exactly.
questions.
And you don't even necessarily have to ask a lot of
Or
questions because women naturally love to talk a lot. And then all we have to do is just say, tell me more about that.
it gives you the mysterious vibe because you haven't said
Yes.
anything about yourself.
Yes. Which in turn creates the attraction.
Ragazzi, Dave is back. Dave is back. We did a podcast a week ago. We talked about masculinity. We also did a podcast separate with his wife Anna. Today we're gonna focus on masculinity once again, mostly on his business side. Many topics. We already talked about who he is. He coaches men, and I want to start with the one that interests me the most because it is one of the things that make me who I am. One thing that I have to fight constantly. Can we please talk about fear? The fear of men. This is something we all have. None of us talk about it because we don't want to sound like wusses with our friends. Peer pressure sucks. I fucking hate it. I have a few. I will always have them. I will always have to fight them. What does fear do into a man?
Well, used appropriately, it builds us into stronger men. It builds us into more competent men, more men that are more brave, and allows us to just really find the depths of who we are as men individually. And that's the beautiful thing about. I went through this process. It was pretty traumatic. I took my very first flight when I was 17 years old.
Flight.
Like
just an airfare, air
Yep.
flight.
I was
Okay.
hopping on an airplane. I flew to Jackson Hole to go skiing. I came back, uneventful. And I took a few more flights after that. A little bit turbulent, no big deal, safe the whole time. Somewhere in between those few flights that were a little bit turbulent, I created a fear, an irrational fear of flying in my mind, to the point that the very last flight that I took, I was leaving a friend's house who happened to be a psychiatrist. He gave me some anti-anxiety drugs to take on the plane so that I wouldn't have it on the plane coming home. And that was the last time I ever flew in an airplane for 10 years.
Wow.
I drove everywhere.
How did it come by? It just happened randomly, like the fear just started out randomly. Is that the normal process?
So that's what we're so good at as human beings and men in general, is creating an irrational fear in our minds and starting to believe it over and over. And we create these problems in our lives that hold us back through the fear itself. So I kind of got over this. It took me a long time. I actually found a self-help program online. It was like $20. I've watched it about 50 times. And
They made a course on how to overcome flight fear.
I bought a course.
Yeah, but they made a course on how to overcome flight fear.
Yes.
That's it means it's quite a big issue. You guys monetize literally everything. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's so I go through this program and I'm like, okay, I can do this.
Okay.
But this was after 10 years of having this want to travel. I had been invited to Europe many times and I just declined it all the time because I didn't want to get on the plane. I was so afraid. And then I had friends out west, and I love the west of the US, and I wouldn't fly out to see them. And so friendships were falling apart. And just got to this point where I kind of had what's almost called like a double bind in the brain, where the brain is wanting and the body's wanting to go do something, but you're doing something in the complete opposite direction against what you're trying to do. And that creates a lot of turmoil in a man's life. And if we can knock down that fear barrier and get to business, then the world opens up. And so this is how I was able to do that. Followed that little self-help course, hopped on a plane, flew out to Los Angeles, came back, uneventful flight, and I was really proud of what I accomplished. And like, still something there. And I didn't know what it was. I flew a couple more times, no big deal, but there was still something there, and I couldn't figure out what it was. My brother and I had a clothing company at the time.
Okay.
And we catered to action sports events like motocross, skateboarding, surfing, stuff like that.
Awesome.
And we go to this event. Well, it was a base jumping event, and I was like, this is a really cool sport. I want to get into this. So I start talking to people. How do you get into this sport? Well, you got to learn to skydive. Well, at that point in my life, I'm like, absolutely not.
Put a jump?
Yeah, absolutely not. I wouldn't do it. Came back the next year, same event. I knew some more people there. I felt more comfortable with them. Like, hey, come down to the drop zone. It's totally safe. We'll take care of you. And just kind of built that like confidence and trust in me as well as in them, that they could get me to jump out of this plane. I finally did it.
It's about just doing it, like other factors that helps you overcome fear. I give you my There was one big fear I had when I was little. So I've been put on a motorcycle since I was 3 years old.
Mm.
Okay, I've been put on a motorcycle with gears when I was 7. Something did not click in me. I did not like it. I hated it. And I just left it there. I never touched it again until I was 12 years old, where I kept on having this fear. I think that the episode was I left the clutch too quickly, I wheelied, and the bike went on the guardrail, literally leaned. Nothing happened. I didn't get hurt. I
Okay.
just shed my pants when I was little. Stopped doing it. And I kept on watching my father driving the motorcycle. Driving the motorcycle, I was like, fuck, that looks so cool. That looks so cool. That looks so cool. At the age of 12, I remember taking the motorcycle, the small pit bike, going on it and just riding it flawlessly. Something like immediately, like there was something, no fear. Boom, good, chill, wheeling, chill. Like in a matter of 1 minute, I took the motorcycle and went. What happened? I have no idea.
Prior to that, it was fear from that.
Prior to that, there was fear, and that moment, nobody watching, there wasn't people around. It just happened that I made the decision of let's just fucking do it, and then I realized that the fear was unnecessary and stupid. Why do we build pictures in a head of something that never existed in the first place?
Yeah, I question that myself all
Like,
the time.
are you able to explain that, or why do we
I
do
don't
it?
know exactly why we build fears. I mean,
Okay.
some are legitimate, but irrational fears, like you being afraid of the motorcycle, me being afraid of flying.
Or flying after doing it, and nothing
doing
happened.
it and nothing happened. So here was the thing. I figured out what it was that actually made me afraid. So we're born with two primal fears: fear of loud noises and fear of falling. Primal, the day we're born.
That's why we wake up sometimes.
Yeah.
When we fall.
Yeah, we're born with these two things. And it wasn't until I left that airplane on a skydive and I started falling out of the plane that I realized that was my actual fear of falling from the sky to the ground.
Did you do it again after that?
I'm at 270 jumps right now.
Fucking hell. A few times. It's an entire year.
and seven wingsuit flights.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So the rest of the fears ultimately are completely irrational.
What is man's biggest fear on average? I mean, you talked to a lot of them. What is the man's biggest fear?
Ultimately, it is them actualizing themselves and being a true, unapologetic version, masculine version of who they really are, who they really feel they are inside, but are fearful of displaying it to the world because of judgment.
Interesting. I would have said something completely different. I thought that the biggest fear of men, or at least my peers, was rejection.
That is.
I mean, it kind of goes into what you said.
Yeah.
It's more of a branch of it.
Yep.
Rejection, especially by the women.
Yes, rejection by a woman is definitely a big fear.
Why?
So I was talking about this earlier on the webinar I was doing. We covered this exact topic. And a woman that we admire, that we find beautiful, that we enjoy being around, is a direct reflection of who we are as men. And so...
Wait. A woman that we enjoy being around is a reflection of who we are as a man?
Yeah.
And we like that woman because of who we are. Explain it better.
So she is a physical representation of the female version of who we really are as men. And when we see her, now this is the beginning stages, obviously, based on your question. So when we see her, like, oh, that's the woman for me. We see things that are inside of ourselves as men in her, like the way she dresses, the way she's mannered, the way she walks and moves. I'm not saying that we're like women, but these are the things that on the female side that we appreciate as men. And so when that ideal moment happens with that woman coming into it and she says no to us, well, now we're attacking ourselves. It's an attack on ourselves that we're not good enough as men.
What should the actual response be?
So first thing is, as we get better at dating when it comes to being a man and getting out there and experiencing lots of different women, we start to see patterns and we can say, oh, okay, she's going to fit in this group, she's going to fit in this group, she's going to fit in this group.
Compartmentalize.
Yes. And a man that's done a lot of dating will be able to go through we'll just say, for example, a room of women and put them in these different categories and know that, okay, well, these 4 categories don't work for me. I just know that. But maybe these 3, there's potential there. And I went through this personally, where I knew what I wanted, but I was finding it in 2 and 3 different girls at a time. So I had to take a step back and be like, just by, universal law, so to speak, there's got to be a woman that has everything that I want as just a single woman. And so I did a lot of work on that. I did a lot of different meditations and things like that to really get a sense of what it was going to be like to be with that ideal partner. And it worked.
You met her after it, during it?
1 month after,
How quickly do you notice?
immediately.
Fucking hell. Okay.
I did the work. I felt a little weird doing the work.
Why?
Because I was questioning the validity of it, right? And then I said, okay, if this is true, this is true, this is true, then this should happen. So I went through the experience of what it was going to be like to meet her. What was it going to be like to kiss her? What was sex going to be like? What was our daily life going to be like? What was it like to hug her? And like feeling all of those experiences in my body allowed me to actually end up meeting her 1 month later. It was very, very vivid and real in that type of meditation work that I was doing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand your point of view very well. I never just spoke it out into words because I thought it looked too mathematical as a thing
Yeah.
and not very appreciated by today's society. But I understand your point of view very well. Actually, there's nothing I will go say against it, honestly. It's crazy.
And
It's crazy you said it out loud. It's like, fuck. Yeah.
Well, it's something that we can use every day, right? We can use
Mhm.
it in business. We can use it in building out our lifestyle, however we want to live. And it's an awesome tool. Some people can't get behind it, but some people do. I'm not saying that it's any kind of deep, amazing thing, but it's just really spending some time with yourself to figure out, what you really want at the end of the day and what you're absolutely not going to settle for.
You think that the fear of rejection so is not as big as the fear of meeting your own manhood? What you just mentioned. Probably probably described very badly what you said initially.
Okay,
But you made
so
it about manhood, about fulfilling who you are, understanding who you are, and not being fearful of presenting it to society.
yes, so I mean, so that is definitely a big fear, along with the rejection, right? In a sense, it's kind of a double rejection because when we as men go out and present our real, authentic selves to society,
Do we? We don't.
we should,
We should. We don't.
but we get pushback when we do, and that's the fear, that's the rejection from society or a person or business, whatever it may be. That's pushing back against what our ideals are and what we want to achieve with our life. And if we don't have the ability to push back and step into that tension and that pressure and that stress, well, then we're going to be walked all over. So it's
True.
critically important to, step on fear, step on that stress and that pressure and just push it down and keep going forward, because we're never going to become who we ultimately want to be if we're afraid to do that. Back to my example of skydiving. I've ended up skydiving with the Prince of Jordan. I've been paid to go to Australia 3 times to do some stunt work.
Wow.
And I've traveled all over the world
Mhm.
skydiving. And I kind of, as my career developed with that, I was like, this is crazy. This was the exact fear, the thing that I was terrified to do.
And that's my career.
Now it's kind of like my career, and it's giving me all these amazing worldly opportunities and experiencing all this different culture that I'd always wanted to do. So by facing it, it gave me everything that I wanted.
Does overcoming one of these fears change a man completely?
Completely.
It did for me. Okay.
100%.
Whenever you always see this with many of the people you talk to and you worked with.
Yeah, some of the men that I've worked with have had major life shifts to the point that they have come back and said, I honestly didn't believe that you could get me to this place.
One of my biggest fears, and this was a consequence of the German-Italian school system and also Italian society. There's a whole thing, if you don't do this, you're going to end up under a bridge. If you don't do this, you're going to end up broke. If you don't do this, you're going to end up poor as fuck. And so the general fear is, should I take the risk of potentially going into that, but to maybe reach something better or not? And then I lived that fear. There was a moment 2 years ago when I just started my TikTok. I was working on my first house. I started realizing I do not have enough money from my investors to finish this house, to finish the house and maintain my life down at the construction site. So I had the choice of accepting the fact and saying, I need more money, I miscalculated my things, I made a mistake. This is also the stupid ego of my stupid mind.
Sure.
Or sucking it up and living that thing that my professors and society was shoving down my throat. If you don't comply, you're gonna end up under a bridge. I said, I'm a fucking end up under a bridge for 2 months. I ended up eating at food banks of the church through counsel of my broke contractors too. I literally stepped on a construction site for 2 months, and I started realizing I was scared of this shit. I mean, it's not something I want to be for the rest of my life,
Sure.
but it's not as bad as people are describing it. 2 months later, I wake up with $200,000 in my bank account because I sold the house. And that my life literally changed. So at the time, I was very scared of having a more precarious lifestyle and having to earn my bread every single day. Then I just accepted it. It's like, if this is what I was fearing, fuck it. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Did it change me on many things? Yes.
On many different levels, and I'm
It was crazy.
sure, like on some of the most basic levels, you don't even realize how much because of that, right?
It was a stupid fear. It
Yeah.
was a very stupid fear. It's like, you can live with literally nothing and still be okay.
Especially in America.
Mamma mia. Yes,
You
they
can-
say you have no protection from anything. You do. You can. There's ways to live here even on nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
And
mean,
then
you're in California. You know this better than me.
don't even get me
If I want to, I can live in Beverly Hills. Just open a tent.
Absolutely. I mean, I just even here in DC, right?
Oh yes,
We've been all around.
Battle of Titans right now. These
Yeah,
are two titans.
it's just unbelievable. But what was I going to say there for a second? I was going to talk about something with what you were saying. Oh, so what I was going to say about what you went through, right? That's the whole story of Dante's Inferno, right? Dante's going down into hell before he gets to heaven,
Yes.
right? And if we're not willing to go through hell before we get to heaven, then we're never going to experience heaven. We'll experience a mediocre version of that, but not what we truly could be.
And you become more grateful. You become appreciating of everything. Crazy.
I'm so grateful and so appreciative of every single thing that I have. It's just unbelievable. And all the experiences that I've had, I'm just like, it's to the point some days that I feel guilty for living such a badass, awesome life. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
But
yes.
I have to check myself and be like, why am I feeling guilty for going after everything that I've always wanted?
Esattamente. Fear, going through it, the messages you're giving out, the messages society is giving out now. What does it mean to be a man nowadays? What is the modern man? What is the modern man that society is pushing down our throats? And what do you believe the modern man should be? And do you believe there's similarities with the old version of masculinity?
Yes. So the older version of masculinity, which is more your traditional masculine, that is still around, is an excellent foundation. I think that there's about 3 stages of men, right? We have your first stage man. He is the guy that is emotionally void. He has no way to express anything that he wants to express emotionally. He doesn't want to express anything emotionally. He's a guy that is very like gruff and rough. He's like, we're doing it my way. I don't care what you think. There's no negotiating with him.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see these guys like, you'll find some people like this, in dive bars, right? Like these just grungy places that they're drinking their life away. They're heavily using drugs and stuff like that. They're not doing anything for society at all. And the people that are around them are ultimately kind of victims of who they really are. And that's when you're getting into like domestic abuse and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting into stealing to fix their habit, right?
Okay.
So that's like your first stage. It's a rough, tough kind of masculinity. That still is around the world, right? And I look into even some places in Eastern Europe. I see it. I appreciate it for what it is, and on a foundational level, because we need to be that kind of rough and tough guy at some points in our life. Then we get into the second stage. Second stage man is terrified of the first stage guy. He doesn't want to be rough, but at the same time he needs to be. And he's developed a deep emotional awareness of other people around him. And he caters to that emotional awareness in such a insane way that he almost becomes annoying. And you'll find these guys in like corporations. They're like middle management guys who
Mhm.
are passive aggressive, who have a contract on the back end, like a hidden contract on the back end of something that they've done for you, but they're expecting something in
These are the
return
nice
for that.
guys.
Yeah,
These
these are
are
the
the
nice
nice
guys.
guys.
These are the nice guys. They've developed an
They're-
incredible emotional awareness, which is really important for a guy, but they use it in a really negative way. They don't like to stand up for themselves. They apologize for who they are all the time. So complete opposite of that first stage guy who doesn't apologize. He's like, this is who I am. I don't give a fuck. And then we have this guy who apologizes for everything, who thinks that just his existence in this world is not worthy of anything and that he should be catering to others all the time. And then we go into the third stage guy, which is a perfect blend of both of these men. The guy that can be rough and tough, do what needs to be done. If he gets into a fight, whatever, he owns it. He gets into a fight. But he's also aware of the emotional state of people around him. And he's not afraid to be emotionally vulnerable and saying, hey, I'm feeling down today. I'm getting hurt. A lot of our veterans suffer with that. They can't come out and say, hey, like, I'm really hurting inside because war really fucked me up. And so we see a lot of veteran suicides these days because of that. And getting men to open up on the emotional vulnerable side of masculinity is critically important today. And he's gonna rise to a new place of being that he never thought that he would be able to achieve or experience without judgment. And so the rough and tough kind of side of the third stage guy is pretty easy to do for a guy that's coming from the first stage. The guy that's starting at the second stage, teaching him to be a little
He
bit
has
more.
to undo himself completely.
Yeah, he has to undo everything that he's been fighting against, and he needs to go out and get in a couple fights. it's that simple, or do something that's a little bit more rough and tough. I've had guys. I've started them on jujitsu and martial arts. They were afraid to get hit. They were afraid to hurt somebody else, and I'm like, you're not going to hurt anybody else. This is a controlled environment. You're not in a street fight. So getting them to do that is really, really cool.
Put them in a demolition room.
What's that?
Put them in a demolition.
Yeah.
I think one of the most therapeutic things I did in my houses was demolition.
Yes.
I would have other people clean. I would pay them, but I always wanted to take a hammer and just destroy shit.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Beautiful. You feel omnipotent.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Well, they have the rage rooms now where you can go in and with a baseball bat.
Yeah, but you pay for that. I get paid for destroying. It's beautiful.
You get paid. So you got the better deal. But I actually have sent a lot of my clients to go to the rage rooms.
Or a shooting range.
Yes.
Or a shooting range.
100%.
The beautiful thing of the shooting range is you realize how much destruction you can create with such a little tool.
Yes.
That was the first time I went to a shooting. I landed in America. My father picked me up. I told them, bring me to the shooting range immediately.
Awesome.
That was the first thing I did in America. Then I bought a gun.
That is as American as it gets. And shooting as well. I take some of my higher end clients that I've worked with for a while, that I've built a really good rapport with and trust with. Some of my programs are a military style experience.
Love it.
Take them out. We do driving and shooting. We do some spy stuff. And they love it because that's the masculine experience that they've been looking for, that it's hard to find.
What does society want men to be? You gave your 3 versions of men. Yeah. What version of a man does society want? American society.
Currently, in modern America, they want the soft. They want the guy that can be easily manipulated.
Why do they want a soft, nice guy? Just for manipulation?
He's easier to control.
Yeah, but then what? What happens then?
So
you think it brings
if we want
good
to get into
society?
some conspiracy theory stuff,
go for it.
Right?
Open it up.
We have powers that be that want and love control, and it's really hard to control a really masculine man because he's not going to tolerate anything that he doesn't like. So you dumb him down.
Mm-hmm.
You feed him poor food.
Okay.
You drop his testosterone levels, and he doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to fight for anything. He just wants to go with the flow. He doesn't want to be the person that pushes back, like we were talking about earlier.
Don't tread on me.
What's that?
Don't tread on me.
Yeah, don't tread on me, right?
That's one thing I learned recently. I never understood what this bloody snake was, and then I learned. Yeah, okay.
I think the original flag, if I'm not 100%, if I'm right about this, I think I am. I think the first flag was cut into, the snake was in 13 different pieces, representing the 13 original colonies of, I believe that's right.
Could be.
We're probably going to get corrected on that, but I think that's right.
Probably.
But that's what current day America is looking for. They're looking for this soft, controllable guy.
Is it good for society though?
Absolutely not.
Is it good for women?
Definitely
Do
not.
women want that?
Some do.
Okay.
Some women do want to control and have that beta male in their life. We actually have a friend, a very good friend of ours, who she says all the time, I'm very happy with my beta husband. He loves to be in control. Now, is that incorrect? No. One just has more masculine energy, the other has more feminine.
Yes.
But
generally speaking,
generally
if
speaking,
you do take the whole society, is a feminine man that they want to create a good thing for society? I don't know. Now, he's not right now here. What I know, this is my observation between the message that I see and how ladies end up going out with. And it's total opposites. Like the more masculine guys, the more risk takers tend to get a lot more than the one that society wants. So isn't that also confusing to the men? What the hell do you want? I see one thing and you want the exact opposite.
Sure. Because men are looking at it from an analytical perspective of you're saying this,
Yeah.
but then you're doing this. Women are saying, I visually and I, feel comfortable saying I want this, but all of my body and all my emotions want this.
Okay.
So it's that, and the guys are reading what
Is being
women
said.
are being said and what they're told. That's why, in my opinion, women are the worst dating coaches in the world when you look at that stuff, helping guys, because unless they're
She's
out,
pretty chill about it. She's
unless,
pretty chill about it. Okay.
unless
okay.
they're out picking up women as women, they don't have the experience. They don't know how to get a man to be more masculine.
Okay.
And the masculinity and the vulnerability is what is actually turning women on. And so as these more masculine men are becoming aware of this, it's fulfilling that void that is growing immensely with these softer guys that are
What should men do to make this world a better place? What should the one action that the average man should do to make this world a better place that all men should do? Both for themselves, but most of all for women. In Italy we say si lavora e si fatica per il pane e per la fica, which means we work and we sweat for the bread and in the end for the ladies. Everything we do is an act of being seen by the woman and being appreciated by the woman. So what should a man do to improve the world, both for themselves and for the women for which we do so much?
That's one thing that I want to say about Italian men. I love how passionate they are about women. It's fantastic, and you may not agree, but I
ups and downs.
Yeah,
we're good lovers, but we're notorious also for being others. Loving too much.
Yeah.
Loving too much.
Yeah, but I appreciate that. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I would like to see more men be able to do that. Yeah, so that's one thing I really appreciate about what I saw in the men in Italy. It was fantastic. But to get to your question, what is the one thing that men should be doing for themselves? Well, first and foremost is they should be putting themselves first in everything and taking care of themselves first.
Okay.
So it's the whole oxygen mask concept, right? If I'm on a plane and I go around trying to help everyone else without putting my oxygen mask on first, well, I'm useless. So I need to take care of myself first before I can help everybody else. And what I tell a lot of my guys is, whether you're married or not, first thing you do and wake up in the morning is, what do I need first? Take care of myself first. And then once I'm taken care of, then I can take care of everybody else. I can take care of my wife. I can take care of the family. I can take care of the business. And always be putting yourself first in a healthy, selfish way. Not a selfish way, but a healthy, selfish way. You need to be communicating with your wife, with your girlfriend, what you need. You need to be communicating with your superiors at work. Hey, this is what I need. This is what I'm not going to do. When it comes to business, you need to be honest and upfront with your business partners. And always putting yourself first and foremost out there and taking care of yourself first allows you to just be that really rock solid guy that women, that society, that other men trust and want to be around and enjoy hanging out with.
I like that. It's a good one.
I think so.
Grazie.
Grazie mille.
You got it.